meetings and task forces, but we implement what both the people of Kenya and the leaders and the government that's agreed upon before, which is documented. One thinker once said, one philosopher, and it was Karl Marx, that philosophers have described the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. We have passed various resolutions about the sugar industry. The point now, however, is to change it. The time for change has come. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members of Parliament present, senators, governors, ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered here as stakeholders in the sugar sector to review, discuss, build consensus, and forge a way forward on issues of concern in the industry. 2, on behalf of the Lake Region Economic Bloc, a bloc of 14 counties with a population of 14 million people. There are countries in Europe which sit in the UN Assembly, like Serbia, Montenegro, you name them, whose population cannot reach 1 million. In the Lake Region Economic Bloc, we are 14 million. We should sit in the United Nations Assembly. I must save you. So our population and our number cannot be neglected on issues like this. I'm sure if we were to count the members of Parliament, the Lake Region Economic Bloc, the senators, the governors, and the MPs, it's a very big representation whose voice must be heard. I wish, therefore, Mr. Speaker, to extend warm welcome to you guests and delegates representing this great bloc, that when we speak with one voice today, reiterating resolutions we have reached before, this will definitely be listened to passionately and attentively by our government. Today's event is the culmination of a series of consultations we have been having as the leadership of Lake Region Economic Bloc on issues affecting the sector. During the 11th LREP Summit meeting held in Migori County in April this year, as Honorable Tuoma said earlier, and Honorable Lusaka was there, Ken, you have never told me where we make those good seats. I think this is in Dar es Salaam, because every time you come from Dar es Salaam, there's a new one. So please take me there. In Migori in April this year, we held a sugar debate and explored in detail what ails the sector. Most speakers wondered why state-owned sugar millers were on their deathbeds, while privately owned millers were raking in profits year in and year out. Most farmers wonder why some farmers keep on in business while some of us are doing very badly. I asked a friend of mine called Steve Brooks. Is Stephen here? Steve Brooks, I wonder whether Steve came, of what do you call that farm there? Omaline. Steve plants cane up to the 17th ratoon and produces 40 tons of cane per acre using organic manure, not fertilizers. Therefore, his cost of production is very down, because you also have cattle which produce the manure which is used as a fertilizer in his farm. So we can learn something from Stephen Brooks. Maybe one of these days you should take our farmers there and see how to be self-sufficient in cane production. I am glad to note that in the program, we shall have an opportunity to unpack the task force recommendations as we craft a sustainable way forward. As leaders, we wholly supported the proposals contained in the report and committed that one, we shall invest in an integrated industrial park anchored in the Lake Region, in the sugar industry. And I'm glad Juma Mukhwana is here, who is the boss of aggregation and industrial parks. We need an integrated industrial park anchored in the Lake Region in the sugar industry. 2, we shall support the establishment of an independent sugar industry research station for agronomical research and vouch for the reinstatement of the Sugar Levy Fund to support research. Again, the boss of the Sugar Research Center in Kisumu is here. Where is she? I thought I saw her being introduced. Yeah, there she is. Now, if you go to the Sugar Research Station in Kibos, you shall be very sorry because we are not paying a lot of attention to it. C, we will urge the national government to cede state-owned factories to the private sector for efficiency, profitability, and sustainability. Government is bad in doing business. Let us give business to the private sector. Let us create infrastructure. Let us have good policies, financial and otherwise. Let us make sure the environment of doing business in sugar is enabled by the government, not done by the government. 4, we call upon the national government to consider fiscal policies that protect the sugar sector as a strategic economic venture. 5th, we shall work to ensure sugar is classified as food and not a commodity, to allow for friendly tax measures. And finally, we would champion for the establishment of a publicly owned company to import sugar whenever deficits arise, with profits realized from this venture plowed back into the sugar sector, and not allow this to be done wantonly by the sugar industries or factories in this country. I was once a minister for planning and national development, and I represented our government in the African, Pacific, and island countries, or what we call ACP, African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries. And we used to meet at the European Union, and sometimes in those distant islands on St. Nevis and Nevis, St. Kitts and Nevis, tiny little islands, you can even think. But anyway, where sugar is grown. And every time at those meetings, I had to defend Kenya of having a deficit of 365 tons of sugar every year. The data on the area that was sugar grown, the data on the capacity to produce sugar really did not defend our being allowed to have this 365 tons deficit every year. But I was shocked one day when somebody asked me, we have had 3 meetings. As every meeting you mean you have 365 deficit tons. You mean you people don't grow or go back? You stand constant so that your deficit is always constant. These are some of the things we should interrogate and get away with. 7, these are just but a few of the resolutions Lake Region Economic Bloc governors and sugar sector stakeholders made during the 11th summit, during the recent biannual devolution conference in Washington, Gishu County. We convened as LREP governors and agreed to have this conference because the sugar sector, as my friend Baraza said earlier, issues have to be addressed urgently. I am happy to note that the national government has covered ground in actualizing our aspirations for the sector. The Speaker of the National Assembly is here to confirm to us where we are in the legislative process, with particular focus on the sugar bill and the National Treasury Memorandum on action plans to revive and commercialize the state-owned sugar companies. It is my hope that by the time this conference comes to an end, we shall have a clear picture as sugar sector stakeholders on the way forward while putting the interests of the farmer first without repeating ourselves. Speaker, sir, thank you very much, and I take this opportunity to invite